Alright, welcome biology to fungi. We've already covered 21.1, so this is 21.2. Alright, let's start with types of fungi. So we have common names like molds, and these come from the group Zygomycota, okay? And they have life cycles that include a zygospore. So you can see Zygomycota and zygospore show that those two are linked together, okay? And we'll see pictures of those in a minute. Then we have sac fungi. Sac fungi come from the group Ascomycota, and they have an ascus, okay, which is a reproductive structure with spores. Third group of fungi are club fungi, which come from Basidiomycota, and their reproductive structure looks like a club, and so they just name that Basidium. So the club is a Basidium. And then the last group of fungi are imperfect fungi, or Deuteromycota. And these really can't be placed in any other group, and so they're all put into one group, Deuteromycota. Okay? And so you can see each one of these four groups, or at least the main three at the top, are all placed into categories according to their reproductive structures. Okay? So that's the key point for the types of fungi and how they are divided. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the next slide. You have a graphic organizer for you, and it goes through each one of the phyla, the groups of fungi, and the types of fungi you will find in those groups. Okay, so make sure that you copy all of this down into your notes to help you study. And I will give you another minute to write those down. Alright, moving on. So we talked about the reproductive structures of those fungi, and so now we're going to talk about how they reproduce. So almost all fungi can reproduce sexually and asexually. With sexual reproduction, you have usually two hyphae fusing and creating a reproductive structure, okay, depending the basidium, the ascus, or the zygospore, okay. And then asexual reproduction occurs when spores are produced and released without two hyphae fusing. Remember, if there is no genetic exchange, then that is asexual reproduction. Okay? And so while the names of the structures and spores are different, the processes are really very similar. Okay? And so that's what we're going to take a look at next. And I'll give you just another minute to copy down these notes. Alright, so here you guys have an example of our fungi reproductive system. So you can see both the asexual and sexual reproduction parts. They're labeled for you. And the main structure in both of those are the sporangium. The sporangium is going to produce spores. In our asexual reproduction, the spores are not going to have genetic combination, and in our asexual spores you're going to have like a plus and a negative that can then combine, exchange DNA, and then the resulting sporangium of those now zygotes technically would be different types of sporangiums or our fungi. Okay? Alright, in this slide, it's another reproductive cycle in fungi, and you've got, in this one, a bigger sexual reproduction cycle. You've got your fruiting body at the top, and this one is having the ascus, okay, and you can see there's a blue and a red dot inside. those are going to combine and basically exchange DNA and form a zygote at the top. And you can see the blue and the red dots inside of that zygote area keep reproducing and creating more, basically, spores. In this case, you've got the ascospores. Those spores then get released and they can form more hyphae. And those hyphae can then just break off and form their own, or basically same versions of themselves, which is asexual, or they can continue the process and exchange DNA. And so that is another example of reproduction. Here you've got one for mushrooms, okay, and the fruiting body, inside of the fruiting body you've got little gills, and those gills are going to have the spores. And so it's very similar to the one that we just saw in our previous slide. Alright, so now we are ready to go over our last section of chapter 21, 21.3. So make sure that you copy down these last few notes. Alright, here we go. The many roles of fungi. So fungi, like we've talked about before, they obtain their nutrients, they get their food by breaking down decaying matter. Okay, so they are saprobes. You need to know that term, saprobes. So write it in your notes. Fungi are also parasites to living things, and it would be a good idea to have examples for your test. Okay, that's a hint. This will be on your test. So, you've got examples for plants, animals, and more specific examples for humans. So let's look at plants first. You have corn smut and wheat rust. These are two examples. And if you look in your textbook in 21.3, you'll see examples of these. It almost looks like dirt, like a fuzzy dirt on the outside of the corn and of the wheat. Okay, so now let's move to humans. Humans, you get athlete's foot and yeast infections. Yeast infections are more in our urinary system, okay? So we're going to focus more on athlete's foot for examples. You have a picture of this in your feet, or not in your feet, it's on your feet, but an example of this in your textbook. There's a picture. And really, you can't see a fuzzy dirtiness. It's more cracking your feet and causing your feet to peel. And it's really gross and itchy and sometimes even hot. And so they are extremely uncomfortable for humans to get these fungi. And then our last one is animals. So animals are infected by fungi in that the spores of the fungi will go inside of the insects. And then they cause the insects to start growing the fungi out of their bodies, which is really, really painful looking. You can see in your textbook a picture of a grasshopper that has the fungi growing out of it. And they can live for a little bit, which is good because then the fungi gets food, but eventually they're going to die. That fungi is going to kill them. And so again, fungi infecting animals, plants, and humans are not fun things. Alright, part of your test will have some questions about symbiotic relationships. Remember, symbiotic, if you look on the door of my lab closet, you can see the Nemo fish and the sea anemone, that purple structure, and they both benefit from that relationship. They live together, helping each other. And so fungi have these mutualistic, symbiotic relationships, meaning that they both help each other, okay, the fungi and whatever they are living with. So an example are lichen, okay, not lichens, lichens. Basically, this is a fungi and an algae or a type of bacteria, cyanobacteria. Remember, cyano means blue bacteria. They basically live together to give structure and food to each other. And then our last one is mycorrhizae. So mycorrhizae are basically the fungal roots eating or living off of a plant, and so they benefit the plant by allowing the plant to get more nutrients, and then the plant provides the fungi with some of those nutrients, the products of photosynthesis, which mainly it's wanting sugar. Okay, so it gets some of that sugar from the photosynthesis. And this last picture is your lichen structure. You've got your either algae or cyanobacteria and the fungi living together. And so that is all for 21.3. If you have any questions, let me know via email or Sycamore, and happy studying, guys.